Yeah. Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm actually the creator of CheckMate lah. So today I'll be here just sharing about what we did and some of the takeaways, building up the system and running it lah. Okay, so like what is CheckMate, right? So first thing first, we are a ground up project. What does that mean? We are not a company. We are just an initiative, a group of people that came together, volunteers that decided to build this thing lah. What we are trying to do is really to build an informed community to fight misinformation and scams. So we have built a product, and this product basically allows people to a trusted and easily accessible way to check things that they don't know whether are true or not lah. And what we have done is entirely built by volunteers, right? So it's built, all of us are like kind of spending our free time, contributing to this, building a bit of it. And it's open source. You can find it at our repo, which is under better.sg. Okay, so the CheckMate product, right, is actually, okay, maybe I tell you a story lah. So why I decided to start this was, it was actually during COVID, right? COVID had so many of these, vaccine-related fake news that was spreading around, right? People were forwarding it to each other. So I was thinking, okay, why don't, rather than just forwarding to each other, we have a place, people just forward to this place and it tells them whether it's true or not. So basically that was the core idea, and that is exactly what the product is now, right? So users send messages into CheckMate. It can be a message, it can be an image, it can be a link, right? It's a WhatsApp bot, they send it in. Behind the scenes, okay, it goes through some AI ML, which I'll talk about later. If the AI ML can't classify it, it goes to a pool of volunteers that check it, right? So all of them cast votes. It's a crowdsourced process. Everybody votes on it. And based on the outcome, once enough people have voted, we will then reply the user, telling them about what the voters thought it was. So that's the product. So if you want to try, you can scan this. You'll open up the WhatsApp chat, right? So that's as a user, and we also you can also try it as a checker lah. So checker, that means you come in and then you'll be actually voting on the messages that people send in. So it's actually quite interesting. Okay, so a bit more details on how CheckMate works, right? You can see it lah. So basically, when people receive a message, they find it a bit sus, right? They are a bit dubious. They don't know what is it about. They can just send it to the WhatsApp bot. The first thing that happens is that we try and do a semantic matching. We try and match to the database because we already have collected a database, quite a lot of messages. It could be one that was already accessed. If it is, straight away we can reply, right? But if it is not, we first have a classifier. So this classifier is something that we train by ourselves. And the classifier will attempt to categorize it in one of these categories. So these categories are stuff that we have actually very painstakingly come out of these categories. Because running this product, people send in really all kinds of things, right? And over time, we have converged that, okay, these are a good way to bucket the things that come in. So if the classifier can do it, then straight away also reply. But if can't, then it goes to a pool of these volunteers. So maybe at any one point, there's 30 to 40 now. It's not that big, but it's enough. And all these people vote. So they vote whether it's legitimate, is it a scam or what, right? And if it's under the information category, they additionally indicate on a scale of 0 to 5, right? How true is it? 0 being completely false, and 5 is completely true. And then we take the average at the end of the day. So based on this, right, then the WhatsApp bot will then reply once enough people have voted, and people can also see things like, the voting statistics and also some other features that we have built in. Okay, so we have run this product for almost a year and a half. I think we started in March last year, right? And these are some of the statistics. I would say we are still trying to get product market fit. It's still quite a small initiative, but there are constant there's constant usage. People are constantly sending in things. Our voters are constantly checking things and assessing. I myself am a voter, so I vote on the messages every day or so. In terms of the accuracy and all that, you can see them here. Our net promoter score is actually quite high. So it's all been quite good. But I think one problem that we have now is retention. So that's something we want to work on. People come in, the users, but they don't really retain over time. Right, so we surmise it could be, maybe not enough mind share, right? I mean, just a ground-up initiative. Nobody really knows it. Or it could also be some things that we need to improve with the product, right? For example, how do we make the immediate reply rate faster? I think that's an area that we keep thinking about how to make it better, right? So these are things that we want to continue to work on lah. And I guess since this is, a stack conference, right? So I'll talk a bit more about the tech stack behind CheckMate lah, okay? So actually CheckMate offers 3 interfaces. So the users interact through the WhatsApp bot. Because the common denominator among all Singaporeans, everybody got WhatsApp lah, especially the older generation that are more vulnerable, they are all on WhatsApp. So the users use through WhatsApp. The checkers use through Telegram, because Telegram is generally free lah, easier to develop things on Telegram also. And then we also have a website. So those are the front-facing interfaces, and then the back end is basically all on Firebase, Google Cloud Firebase, which we found actually quite easy to use. It was easy to set up on Firebase, right? So we have all the functions, hosting, database is all on Firebase. And at the same time, the AI ML side is also all on Google Cloud. We have a whole architecture here where it's kind of like ML Ops, but it's ML Ops on the cheap. That's what I like to call it, right? So our training is on the free Colab. We train our models there. Then after that, we push the models to the cloud storage and then deploy them on Cloud Run. And then we also, there's some syncing within the Firestore, which is our application database, and the BigQuery, which is our data warehouse. So all these are actually provided by Google Cloud, quite easy to set up. And then we also added in some LLM stuff, Vertex AI, we call Gemini and all that for some of the things that we do. And in terms of external services, we use this tool primarily. Number one is TypeSense, because just now I mentioned that there's semantic matching, right? We try and match the messages when they come in. So that one actually leverages this TypeSense, which is vector database and search engine for our website. And we also, of course, call the OpenAI API to do some of the LLM stuff, which I'll talk about. Okay, so these are some of the things that we've learned. Okay, so actually everything that we did, everything that I showed just now is all serverless. All the logic, all the back end is serverless. So if there's nobody using, we don't spend anything. And as a result, actually, because our usage is not particularly high right now, we haven't really tried to scale it up yet. So basically, I'm paying for it. I'm bootstrapping it, but it costs me very little. It only costs 200 a month, and this is all in, including a non-production environment, which basically nobody testing. That means you're not paying anything because it's all serverless. So that was actually very good for us. I think another thing that we learned was actually on hindsight, I wouldn't have started with Firestore. I would have used MongoDB, because now with Firestore, it's like we have to sync the data over to the TypeSense, right? And then although it's not expensive in terms of monetary wise, but you have to maintain all that logic of syncing the thing and making sure that the search engine and the application database are in sync. So I would rather have used MongoDB, like one-stop shop. The application database also can function as a search engine and all that. So I think that was also something that we learned. And because everything is on GCP, right, I really like GCP. So building this on GCP, like we are a startup project, really small scale, but I think GCP provided us everything we need, quite cheap also, so it was good. Okay, so in terms of this Telegram, right, so why we chose Telegram for the checkers, actually, Telegram has this very interesting ability where you can combine the Telegram bot and the native and the web app. Okay, so what do I mean? So this is our checker bot interface. Every time a new message, the user send message, we will get pinged down here. Then you press the vote, right? You will open up, the Telegram has this web app thing. So you can open a web app within Telegram and then you vote inside there. So the combination of these two is like basically giving you like messaging, notification, as well as web app. So it's become very flexible. So that was something that we learned. And the other thing was that actually we started doing, I didn't really know whether the AI will work for our context or not. We did something really hacky, and it ended up working better than expected. So that was also very interesting, and I'll share a bit more about that now. So I think CheckMate started with very traditional type of NLP. Number one, we did the semantic matching, which I talked about just now, basically just embedding using the very standard off-the-shelf model. If cosine similarity above 0.85, we will say that it matches the existing one, and we are using TypeSense. So the other thing that we do is image matching. So for image matching, we use this locality-sensitive hashing algorithm. Basically, if two images are almost the same, they will hash to the same value. So you just compare the hash, and then you can say that the two are the same image. So that was also something that we did. It's very easy. It's very light on compute. Doesn't cost anything. And the last one was the text message classification. So this one we actually, when we started CheckMate, it was all fully volunteer driven. There was no AI. We ran for like a few months. There were 400 messages. Then I thought, okay, why don't you go try training AI to do it lah? But we didn't have that many examples, right? So we also couldn't really fine-tune a very complex BERT or anything like that. So I just basically used this embedder and then put the result into the SVM. And we tried a few other models. We found that actually SVM was the best. And not because it was the most accurate, right? But because it is the most accurate in terms of when it's not categorizing unsure. Because you see, when the machine categorizes unsure, although it's technically inaccurate, but it's not so bad for the operation because it just goes to the human to do the verification. So we can accept that type of error. So in terms of wrong categorization, they are not in this unsure category. Somehow SVM ended up being the lowest, had very little inaccuracies that were not unsure. So we went with the SVM in the end. So with all this, right, this is the percentage of messages that are handled by each of these pipelines. So the matching actually handles 21%, the text classification 17%, and image matching another 3%. So altogether 40% automated. The rest go to the humans. And okay, so increasingly we are also adding a lot of GenAI features. I mean, I started CheckMate like before the era of GenAI lah. So, but as GenAI came in, we are doing quite a lot of things. We are doing rationalization. That's what I call it. But basically, given the label that either our ML or the humans applied, right? We actually use the GenAI to explain why this message was categorized that way, so that the user can actually see like, oh, this is a scam because, right, it promises very high pay for little work. Basically, it's like using the LM to come out with the explanation. The other one we do it for is PII anonymization, because we actually don't want it's a very interesting problem here. We actually don't want the checkers to see the PII that belongs to the person that sent it in. But let's say the PII is like Donald Trump was elected, and then we need to check that we cannot anonymize that type, right? Because then you can't check anything. So it's actually we need a smart anonymization, so we use LM for this. And finally, we also use it for OCR. Okay, so let's say this type of message, we actually only want to take this, right? We don't want to take all this stuff here, block number and everything. We don't want that to be in a pipeline. So actually, GenAI allowed us to do that. Last time, the traditional method will just take everything, and then it will be very messy, basically. All right, so the next thing we want to do with GenAI is what we call the fact-checking agent. Okay, so fact-checking agent is the next bound. Because basically as a fact checker, we are only doing a few things, right? We go to Google, we search. Then sometimes we go to the web page and actually look at it itself. And then after that, based on that, we determine the result and then we vote. So actually all these three things that we are doing can be decomposed into tools. So when we offer these three tools, we can actually build an agent. So this is the prompt for our agent. You are a fact-checking board, you will take a deep breath, blah, blah, blah. And then you come out the category, the truth score. Basically, the process that the user is doing, we also get the agent to do, right? The checker is doing. So, okay, so whether or not it works, right? It works, but not great lah. Okay, so you see, it is better than some humans, but it is still quite low lah, right? Only 43%. The best humans are like 80-90%. But actually, when it works well, it works quite good. So this is an example where it worked well, right? So it determined that this was a scam. That's correct. And you can see its reasoning, because we do chain of thought. There were no such results verifying this as a legitimate SingPost website. Additionally, you can't get the text from the website itself, but the inability to access the page itself is a red flag. So this is a very smart reasoning, right? This makes sense. So actually, when it works well. And actually, what we want to do is to make this better with more prompt engineering and all that. Okay, so a lot more we want to do, right? We want to do phone number handling, we want to do URL scanning, we want to do checking experience that is like tiered, like if you are new, you do a simpler version, you are more experienced, you do more. And also longer term, we want to do like deepfake detection, fact checks that are written by the agent, things like that. There are a lot of things that we want to do. But at the same time, it's quite challenging because we are all volunteer team, right? So basically, these are some of the things that we are trying to do a bit like more open source type of way also, right? So we have found that it's very important to package all this dev work into independent tasks. Documentation also super important, because actually a lot of the contributors to CheckMate are like just coming in for a short while. They do an issue and after they leave, right? So we need to do all this very well, the documentation, the CI/CD, and a few other interesting things is this dog fooding idea, because CheckMate actually very easy for anybody to use, very easy for anybody to become checker. So all the developers, I also ask them to actually use the thing so they understand what's going on, they understand the business context, right? Yeah, and I think for volunteer initiatives, the momentum also very key. Because let's say we go for a 2-month period, never really push any changes, never really had any feature improvements, eventually all the volunteers will just drain away and then the project lose momentum. So momentum is also something that's very important. So yeah, I mean, GitLab had a keynote, right? It resonated with me. I'm also trying to see how to make CheckMate a bit more all remote, right? Function as an all remote organization and implement some of these practices. But I think all volunteer teams also have benefit. I think the key thing is that for CheckMate, the value proposition we offer is not something that people will pay for, right? Nobody's going to pay you to do checking for them because people really don't even check today, right? That's a problem. So, but because we can rely a lot on the story is powerful, and people want to work on CheckMate, so we can rely on that to move the project forward, even though we might not be able to pay people to do it. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, if you have heard my talk, if you are keen to volunteer, right, you can actually come and talk to me, or you can email me, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's very challenging for us to, I mean, it's a full-fledged product. We need to improve it. There's operations also. So yeah, so I mean, if you are keen to help out, right, especially in these areas, especially senior dev, I think that's the really most challenging one. Yeah, feel free to come and find me. I think hopefully you're also like, inspired or motivated by the story that I shared. So yeah, just talk to me, and yeah, that's the end of my presentation. So thanks for listening.